Hey everybody, welcome to Last Week from the Table for March 30th, 2021. I'm your host, DM Gallibond. In this show, what we do is recap the 3 actual play game sessions that I run every week over on Twitch. Alright, so on Thursday night in the Sword Coast Chronicles, the party is still in the town of Vallaki. They started in the toy shop of Blinsky, where he detailed for them the origins of Piddlewick, at least as far as it was recorded, and really revealed that there's no command words or anything set down. It's just that the genius of the toy maker was such that Piddlewick seems to be able to understand what people are saying, and as the party has discovered, it seems to be able to almost tell by telepathy, regardless of what language the characters are using. They don't have any evidence that it's actually able to intercept any telepathic communications between people, but they talked in Elvish and Dwarvish a few times to avoid the humans in Vallaki knowing what they were saying, and Piddlewick seems to understand what they're saying just fine. So that's a pretty impressive little piece of technology that they have. I mean, definitely a very magical thing. But Piddlewick was created apparently for a countess who wanted to impress Strahd von Zarevich and hoped that perhaps after her late husband had passed away, she could become the Countess. The reason Piddlewick was created is that the Countess had an actual jester, a living person, who was beloved by other people at the castle, namely Strahd's future sister-in-law. And when the jester died, the toy was created, and the Countess brought that little doll to the castle to perform. And Strahd's future sister-in-law just found it creepy and didn't want anything to do with it. So, in my lore, that got the Countess banished from the castle. And that's the last anyone had ever heard of Piddlewick. And apparently, over the ages, it made its way to the Vistani, and now they have it. Or they had it until the party took the treasure off of their hands. So that's where Piddlewick comes from. There's some information in a book, but it doesn't have any kind of command words, doesn't have any kind of information like that to know what to make the toy do. It just seems to respond to what people are saying because it has that kind of genius of the magic built in by its original toy maker. After they left the shop, they went over to the Blue Water Inn. When they got to the Blue Water Inn, they met a few people. There was one old man sitting off by himself. There were 2 middle-aged hunter types sitting at a back table. There were 2 youths, 2 young men that were already pretty drunk by 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning, and they were dressed more like nobles. They were sitting there, and of course there's the innkeeper, and then there were 2 women of indeterminate age who were in the inn, and they began flirting with the boys when they walked in. And, Falliger had a strange reading on these women, so he said some things that were a little bit insulting to them, and they just snooted and up and left. Well, the 2 young, wealthy guys, they thought that was hilarious. And so they came over and they started chatting up the party, and they were urging them to come over to visit their mother, who is a noble. She is Lady Wachter here in town, and says that they will get much better food at her place, and the people will be much more appreciative than they are here. One of the party members, Mulek, excused himself, went outside, and when he came back in, he sat down with the old man at the back table, talked to him a little bit, and the old guy is a traveler as well. Turns out the old guy was part of a carnival, as he says, and he came to town a few months ago along with some Vistani and some of his carnival workers, and when they got here to the town, the story he told is that the Vistani went back to their camps and most of the carnival workers went off with the Vistani. And that kind of left him on his own with his little pet monkey. Yes, that is the same pet monkey that now Blinsky has, because this traveling carnival person realized Blinsky was kind of lonely and needed somebody to keep him company. And so he let little Piccolo, the monkey, live with Blinsky. So now he's here being a little cagey about what he's doing in town, what his purpose is, but sort of dropping a few hints about his observations and everything of what's going on. So the upshot was that the party decided that early evening, Fallager would play a little bit of music here at the Blue Water Inn, and then would travel to the house with the two young nobles and go see what was happening over there at Lady Wachter's house. So they left in the afternoon to go tell their mother and get everything ready at their house. Well, as evening fell, the inn filled up a little bit more. The party noticed that about half the people seemed kind of interested. The other half of the people just sort of had this vacant, faraway look and didn't have much expression. And if they were spoken to, they just would answer in one or two syllables and not ever really seem to have much expression on their face. And they've heard things about people called the soulless. And they're starting to think, okay, this is kind of creepy. These people are acting weird. What the heck is going on with these people around here? So they played, and sure enough, about half of the people, they really responded to Fallager's playing. When he played jigs, they were sort of clapping and they were stomping their feet, and some of them even would sing along in very, very poor tune. I mean, these are people who couldn't carry tune with a covered bucket of water. So, and but they were having a good time. And the other half of the people just sitting there with that vacant, faraway look, not responding at all to the music. So, yeah, after about a half hour, 45 minutes of playing, the party was like, yeah, we want to get out of here. This is too weird. We got to find out what's going on. And, of course, we were close to the end of the session at that time. So we will pick up next Thursday night with the party traveling over to the Wachter estate and meeting Lady Wachter and seeing what is happening there. A couple of tidbits they did pick up during the session about life in Vallaki. One is that the Burgomeister has a festival about every week. And indeed, when they had gone into the toy shop, there had been a broadside up talking about the last festival, which was the Festival of the Wolf Heads. When they came out in that same place, there was a new broadside up. It was talking about the Festival of the Sun and saying it was going to be the greatest festival of the year. Clearly, there's a lot of things going on here in this town that need some explaining. They're hoping that maybe Lady Wachter can shed some light, proverbial light, on what's going on here. All right, so join us Thursday night, 8 p.m., twitch.tv/Gallibond, and find out what is going on. All right, everybody. In Saturday night's game, I'm not going to post the archive of the stream that we had on Saturday night, because as I mentioned, we are now kind of in an intermediate time. Last week we finished up the Lost Mine of original D&D, and we determined at that time that the players want to keep playing, but they don't want to keep playing that storyline. So I asked them to think about things that maybe they would like to play, and we would start talking about that this week, and we would then hone in on what kind of game we want to play. We did a little epilogue. The players who were there were 3 players that were able to be there on Saturday night, decided. They settled on an edition. They settled on that they wanted to run a 2nd edition game. They didn't want to stay with the original edition rules, which is fine. And then in terms of what kind of 2nd edition game, they have narrowed it down to 3 probabilities. And I say probabilities because we need the input of the other 2 players. And if somebody comes up with something that just blows everybody out of the water and says, oh yeah, we want to do that, we might change it. But it looks like it's going to be a 2nd edition game that will either be Dragonlance or Dark Sun or Ravenloft. So I am excited about any one of those. There's plenty of source material out there, and I have some source books for all of those settings, and I can put together an extended campaign that is made up of different adventure modules that were published. And we double checked, and in Roll20, indeed, there is a 2nd edition character sheet that's already made up, and it calculates all of the rolls for you, all of the THAC0, it has all of the little tweaks and settings, and then because it's Roll20, if there's anything that's from an obscure source book that didn't get in there, you can custom build it in the character sheet for your character. So there's no problem with that. Once we get all of the players together and we figure out what it is we want to do, we'll then kind of talk about, well, is there anything in particular you'd like to include in the story? We'll probably do some one-on-one sessions for character building. And when I say one-on-one, I say we'll probably do those on Saturday night, but it would probably be a situation where we might take a 3-hour block on Saturday night, and we might be able to get through a couple of people building their character, and meanwhile the other people can be on Discord and chatting with each other through Discord or talking to people in the chat, if anybody even would show up to watch that. So I don't know how entertaining that would be, but people may want to see how that goes with building characters and preparing for a campaign from the ground up. In any case, I'm going to stream it because I want to record it, because I want to have it for my records, so that as we're going through the campaign, if I want to go back and reference anything that we talked about during character creation, there's that record there that I can just go to and reference. It'll probably be, if I put it up on YouTube, it'll probably be like a private video, and then I'll probably just share the link with the players, so that each player, I'll give them the link to their character creation session, so that they have that available if they want it. We'll go ahead and do that. It's going to be kind of exciting. It's going to be fun. Join us Saturday night if you want to sit around and watch us debate more about exactly what flavor of 2nd edition game we're going to play. You are welcome to join us. We'll be 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, twitch.tv/Gallibond. All right, so in the Sunday game, they are still in Igon Town at Igonjo Keep, along with Kyodai and Queen Mashiko now. They spent a lot of time really focusing in on what they want to do when they go to face this dragon. Now, as you can see, right over my shoulder here, Tendo Peak, this really tall peak here. that is where they are going to have to go to face Ryuje, the Falling Star, which is one of the guardian that is corrupted. And they need to fight him until he is basically subdued, unconscious, and then repair the corruption. As he heals, he will be restored to the other guardians of the plane of Kamigawa. So they learned last week about a whole host of immunities and different types of abilities that he has, and they really had to start thinking about what can they do to mitigate some of that stuff, because there's a lot of resistances that the party has, and a lot of them, that the resistance is kind of just going to be for naught because of the damage that this guy deals out. And the special damage types and the special conditions that some of the party members can apply to an enemy, this guy is immune to. So they really have to kind of figure out, okay, if we're not going to be able to go in with our normal frontal assault, how are we going to do this? And so it was a real nice exercise for them to sit down and think strategically. They had a little bit of help from the NPCs, but once somebody gave them a little push in the right direction, they really started coming up with, oh, well, what's this? And do we have this? And can we find something from the academy? And is there anything the Yaki can do? And blah, blah, blah. And so they were able to come up with several different weapons that would help them, and a couple of magic items that can be useful. The specific conditions that they have is that when the dragon that they're going to fight is in contact with mountain stone, he is resistant to all kinds of damage except for radiant and psychic. Those are the only two that he does not have resistance to. If you can get him off of mountain stone, then he's just resistant to piercing, bludgeoning, slashing from non-magical weapons. Is basically, and then he has immunity to fire and immunity to necrotic. That's just across the board. They looked for some things that could help them deal radiant damage and could help them deal psychic damage. And they found a pretty neat magic item at the Minamo Academy. Now, you won't find this magic item in any source book because it's a homebrew magic item, but it's one that, knowing goblin ingenuity, is not out of the realm of possibility. You may be aware that in the recent expansion, Tasha's expansion, where it really goes more into depth with the Artificer and all of the things that are available for the Artificer, that also reintroduced a Tangler grenade. It's an item that had been out of 3.5 called a Tanglefoot bag. I used to love that thing when I was a player. It's an amazing little thing. You throw this bag, it just explodes in sticky goo in a 10-foot radius, and it basically acts like a web spell, and it keeps people from being able to move around. Well, what this goblin had invented, he invented a slip and slide bag, where it's an set of alchemical reagents, and when it hits a surface and explodes like that, it puts a sheet of ice 1 inch thick in a 10-foot radius. And so as they started to think about that, they said, oh, wait a minute. If we can get the dragon to be on ice and not on the stone, that takes him away from contact with the stone, which means he doesn't have those resistances. It also means he can't use that nifty teleport ability he has. He would have to move off of the ice onto stone in order to use that. They've got a little bit of help there. Then they went to the armory at Iganjo Keep, and they found some arrows. Now, these were arrows, several arrows that they found that had been developed in conjunction with some clergy, and other arrows that had been found by a planeswalker when they went to an area where they encountered, as the record said, strange, smooth-skinned humanoids that had 4 tentacles on their mouths. The 4 tentacles off of their chin. Which the players immediately knew what that was. The PCs rolled some checks and all came up with horrible numbers. Like, yeah, I have no idea what that is. But as players, they all recognized what that is. And the arrows they found from those people will deliver psychic damage. So you shoot it, it will deal the normal, it's a magical arrow that'll deal the normal magical arrow damage, but also deals psychic damage on top of that. Then the other arrows that were developed with the clergy will deal radiant damage. So it's the same power level as a rare item. So it's 2d6 psychic damage for the one and 2d6 radiant damage for the other. That gives one of their normal melee characters, who is fairly low on hit points and doesn't have the ability to do his stuns, namely the monk, can't get right in the dragon's grill and stun the dragon because he's immune to being stunned. Well, now he can stand back because a short bow is a monk weapon. He can stand back and he can pepper the dragon with magical arrows that will actually deal some damage that will do some good. So that was one thing they found. They found a sunblade that they were able to borrow for the fight, which of course that does radiant damage. They were able to get that preparation done. Now, they're still trying to work on what mitigation they can do for themselves. But the whole session wasn't just them planning. They wanted to do a lot of roleplay. And there's a subplot going on between 2 of the characters, where one of the characters has been dropping hints for a long time that she's really interested in another character. And that other character, he's just clueless. And so it's turned into a really fun kind of subplot. Okay, how long is it going to take before this poor girl is going to get this guy to realize, oh, hey, she's interested in him? And the players are both having fun with it. Those 2 players are having, the rest of the players are having fun with it. And now the people that are tuning in to the stream are starting to have fun with that plot line as well. I am enjoying it because it always gives me some chuckles. I can just go on mute and just laugh to my heart's content at the shenanigans that those 2 get into. So they took up a good portion of the session with that. And it's nice to see that sort of character development going. And, both of the players, they're like, yeah, we just want to see where this goes and how this plays out. Neither one of them are interested in pushing that relationship with their characters too fast. So I'm fine with that as well. All right, well, that is going to do it for this week. You can come back next Sunday, see what they figure out, and see if they actually feel like they're ready to go face that dragon. They've got a lot of other things going for them. The army from Aigon Town is going out throughout Kamigawa. They've got some scouts going over to Takanuma Swamp who are going to scout out the location of Hidetsugu and see if they can help to pinpoint exactly where that guy is so that when the party's ready to go face him, they don't have to go, searching all over Hell's Half Acre for it. They can go right to it. Then, of course, we will see what happens in the fight with the dragon when they actually get to that. All right, everybody, you can join us Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern Time over on Twitch, twitch.tv/Gallibond. We would love to see you there. And remember, always try to keep your games interesting so that you have tales that you can share from your table as well. Good night, everybody.